All right, welcome. Today, we're going to peek behind the curtain of the digital world. We're going to follow the incredible, totally hidden journey your data takes every single time you use an app. So, let's just dive right in. Really think about it for a second. Every time you tap to like a photo, or you click to add something to your cart, or, confirm a purchase, all those little actions, they each create a tiny piece of information. And it doesn't just poof vanish into thin air. So the real question is, what happens next? Where does all that stuff actually go?
Well, that whole journey happens inside this really powerful system that's always working behind the scenes. And the star of our show today, the thing we're going to focus on, is called the data pipeline.
So what is a data pipeline? Well, at its core, it's just a system that's built to automatically move data from point A to point B. From its starting point, like in an app, to a final destination where someone can actually analyze it. And here's the crucial part. It doesn't just move it, it also prepares it and cleans it up along the way.
Okay, let's actually map out a typical journey so you can see what I mean. Imagine you place an order on an app. Right away, that data is created in the app. Then, boom, it's immediately stored in a local database. From there, it gets sent off for processing. That's where it's all cleaned up and organized. And finally, it lands in a big central data warehouse, all ready to be used for something like a company's sales dashboard. See that? That entire automated flow from start to finish? That's the pipeline in action.
So yeah, a pipeline is way more than just a simple pipe, right? It's got a bunch of really important jobs. It has to collect the data from all over the place, it has to move it securely, it has to clean it up by fixing any errors, and then finally it stores it and prepares it so it's ready to be used. It's a very active, multi-step process.
Okay, let's zoom in a little on that last part. The storage, the destination. Because where this data ends up is super important. And it turns out there are a couple of different specialized systems designed for completely different needs.
So first up, we've got something called the data warehouse. This is the place where data goes after it's been processed, cleaned, and organized. It's what we call structured data, which just means it's super neat and tidy, sitting in nice tables, all ready to be used for things like business intelligence or official reports.
And then you've got something totally different, the data lake. A data lake is just this vast, massive storage system that can hold incredible amounts of raw data. And when I say raw, I really mean it. It takes data in all its original messy formats. Doesn't matter if it's structured, unstructured, you name it.
Okay, so now we have our two key destinations, the warehouse and the lake. Now, they both store data, but their whole purpose, their entire philosophy, it's completely different. So let's put them head to head and see what's what.
And you can see the core difference right here. A data warehouse, that's all about cleaned, structured data that's ready to go for analytics and dashboards. But a data lake, on the other hand, is for raw, mixed data. It's basically a giant storage depot for stuff you might want to use later on.
Here is the absolute best way I've ever heard to remember the difference. Think of the data warehouse as a clean, perfectly organized supermarket shelf, right? Everything has a label, a price. It's ready for you to just grab and consume. But the data lake? That's the giant, messy storage room out back, where all the boxes are just dropped off the truck, waiting for someone to sort through them, eventually.
And just to make that even more concrete, what comes out of a data warehouse are these polished, final products. We're talking about official sales reports, those dashboards that track customer activity, and the key performance indicators, KPIs, that tell a company how it's actually doing.
So what goes into a data lake? Oh, just about anything and everything you can imagine. You'll find simple spreadsheets like CSV files, data from websites in JSON format. You'll find images, videos, even the raw, super technical server logs that track every tiny thing a system does. It's basically a treasure trove of raw, unfiltered information. So you might be wondering, how does all this actually get built? This whole ecosystem doesn't just appear out of thin air. It's all carefully constructed and maintained by data engineers who are using a very specific set of powerful tools.
So these pipelines are usually built with languages like SQL and Python. Those are kind of the workhorses of the data world. And then they're managed by these really powerful platforms that are like the engines driving everything. You've got Airflow to schedule all the jobs, Spark for the really heavy, large-scale processing, and Kafka for handling data that's streaming in real time. And what about the warehouses themselves?
Well, there are some major tech platforms that provide these as a service. You've probably even heard of some of the big names in the cloud space like Snowflake, Google BigQuery, and Amazon Redshift. These are basically the companies building those massive digital supermarkets we were just talking about.
Okay, so we've gone through the mechanics. We've talked about the destinations, the tools, the whole shebang. But let's just zoom back out for a second and ask the most important question of all. Why does any of this even matter?
Well, it matters because, let's be honest, companies today are absolutely drowning in data. And without these automated pipelines, trying to manually collect and clean and analyze everything, it would be, well, basically impossible. Pipelines are the magic that turns that chaotic flood of information into something actually useful and manageable.
And everything we've talked about today, this entire system, from that first click in an app all the way through the pipeline and into a warehouse or a lake, that is the absolute cornerstone of a field called data engineering. You can think of it as the essential, invisible plumbing that makes our modern, data-driven world actually work.
So, there you have it. We followed the data all the way from your fingertip to its final resting place. But you know what? Storing the data is really just the beginning of the story. The next step is actually using it to find insights to make predictions. So, my question for you is, what other part of that data journey are you curious about now?